Let me start by saying entrepreneurship is hard. And if you want your business to do well, you have to be well, mentally well. Here at B.B.R.E.W, we prioritize emotional wellness as a vital key to success. Forget the hustle. Life-work balance is key to prosper and thrive as an individual and as a company. We are building a community of impactful entrepreneurs that put the human capacity over the business. It's time to do things different. Do things your way. You're the boss. Hey, you guys, welcome to Propel Production Center B.B.R.E.W with Lauren
and I'm Jarrell.
And we actually have other people joining us, so stay tuned. And I'm really excited that you guys are here because we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship, but more specifically, how to be emotionally well and mentally healthy while you're navigating small business ownership and trying to live life like a boss. Because let me tell you, Jarrell, entrepreneurship really is, it's challenging.
It's definitely been a challenge for me. We'll get to a little bit into my story in a second, but Lauren knows she's kind of been on the sideline watching and cheering me on as I stepped into entrepreneurship. And trust me, when you find that group of people that this organization we're trying to build, this advocacy group, this support group for entrepreneurs, it's very, very vital to your success because, as she said, emotional wellness, it means wellness for your business and it means success. So
honestly. So we're going to invite some pretty amazing people to join us to really...
Hold up, before we do that.
What?
Lauren.
Yeah.
Can you tell the amazing people who you are?
Oh, you know what? I feel like I'm notorious for just jumping in.
You're such a jump in type of person. But that's a part of being an entrepreneur. You just kind of go with whatever's first. But yes, please let them know how amazing you are, Lauren, please.
Oh, thank you. So my name is Lauren Jones, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker in Washington, D.C. and Maryland, and I'm the founder of Propel Production Center. So Propel Production Center is an art-based mental health nonprofit organization. So we use the expressive arts to engage the community, empower the community, and we also incorporate emotional wellness because as a clinician, I am big on mental health, especially within communities of color. And we combine those two to also provide entrepreneurship support and education because that's just quintessential. Really, small business is the foundation of everything. But it really starts with the mind. Change, in essence, begins with the mind. So I want to make sure that my community is healthy, mentally healthy, emotionally healthy, so we can really do the work within the community. So that's essentially what we do with Propel. We develop programs, products, and services like B.B.R.E.W. And this is actually the finale of our very first pilot program with the University of Maryland, EOC. So I'm really excited about that. And yeah, that's me. That's me, y'all.
Like I said, she oftentimes is so engulfed by, the work she does. This is real passion work for her. So she tends to go get ahead of herself. And I wanted you guys to know the awesomeness that you have, the expertise in the field of mental health and wellness that you have sitting before you, because I've personally been a product of a lot of Propel's programs and things of that nature. For those of y'all who do not know me, I am Jarrell TG, owner of the Griosphere Productions. That is a Black-owned sole proprietorship production company. We do everything from media programs for youth all the way to media services. We also provide workshops for independent business owners and entrepreneurs, independent artists as well that want to get, their feet wet in terms of the media, as we know, social media and all of that stuff is vital to having a success in any type of small business or artistry. So I'm help equip those individuals to do what it is that they need to do without a heavy overhead cost. So I feel like that's my purpose. I'm an educator by trade as well, so it's always a teach a man to fish over a give him a fish. That's how I look at it.
I like that.
Absolutely. So now we can go on to our amazing guest that we have.
Okay, we can start. I was ready. Okay. So I mentioned University of Maryland EOC program earlier. There are two heavy hitters in the game that are going to be joining us today, talking to us about entrepreneurship and empowerment in education. So we want to bring them out. First and foremost, let's bring out Dr. Graham. Hey,
Hello,
Dr. Graham.
Hey, Dr. Graham.
Hi. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to meet you, Jarrell, and Lauren. It's awesome to see you again.
Yes.
I mean, we talk all the time, but it's it's even better to see you almost in person, semi in person.
Right.
Almost.
So close.
So close. I just want to say it's been a pleasure to work with you. This collaboration between Propel Productions and University of Maryland, I think this is a very powerful and very much needed collaboration. I know that a lot of people need it and have gotten a lot out of it, and I'd like to see it grow. And the work that we do typically at the University of Maryland EOC is helping people to go to school, but you have to be able to connect the dots, beyond just school. I mean, you have to help them, with employment, with entrepreneurship, and you have to get them out of thinking, well, school is just for one thing. No, education, school is for multiple things, and certainly one of the big things is viewing yourself as an entrepreneur. So the work that you've been doing was definitely something that I wanted to be part of, and I thought that our participants would definitely embrace. So thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
And I know, Dr. Graham, you brought along someone, so I'm going to pass the mic to you so you can pass the mic and introduce.
Definitely. Well, I have one of my partners in crime, Mr. Joel Salazaro, who is my education specialist, one of my gurus, who his background is he's a business person really by trade, but he tries to keep that under wraps. So I'll let him speak on his own behalf, but he's an amazing guy with lots of ideas, and so he's definitely somebody I like to take along, for this ride, this entrepreneurial ride. So without further ado, Joel, I'll let you say a few words.
Appreciate the introduction. Thank you for speaking, for choosing those words. I thought that was amazing, being the Batman of business. Yes, indeed. Work alongside Dr. Graham. Our number one goal is to help individuals continue their education, no matter what the background is. But at the same time, both Dr. Graham and I, our backgrounds is from communities that have attempted, tried, struggled, and some successful, some unsuccessful. But the key is that I haven't seen another effort such as this, where we're trying to build a community to help individuals, entrepreneurs, sit at the same table and talk to each other and feed off of each other and learn from each other. So this is a wonderful opportunity. I'm happy to be a part of it.
Thank you so much. And we're glad that you're a part of it as well.
Absolutely.
So I think both of you guys have touched on this, so it's perfect segue about really shifting perspective and talking about entrepreneurship, not so much as a side hustle, but kind of the vessel through open doors and creating more opportunities for our community and communities alike. So what are you guys' perspective on that? Well, I'm going to ask you first. What is your perspective on actually using entrepreneurship as like the key to get through the door for opportunity?
I believe once again it's a very vital portion, but it takes a certain mentality in order to see that entrepreneurship could be a vessel that gets you not into just, personal places where you're running your own business, but also in position to help and assist in others, running their business. I I oftentimes hear the rhetoric, not everybody wants to be a business owner, not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, but unfortunately, in the times that we live in today, that's pretty much non-existent. In some way, form, or fashion, you have to have some, what I consider a self-sustaining, way of receiving income. And that can be anything, literally anything. It's just a matter of, like you said, changing the mentality of this is something that's, whether it's a skill, whether it's a certain product that you're able to produce, whatever it is, understanding that that's something that's valuable and that other people could find value in. And like you said, that goes back to a mentality of I can find value in myself, therefore I can, have other people find value in me. So overall, I feel like if you get that mentality, you'll be able to be successful, not just as an entrepreneur, but pretty much in anything, because, having self-value and self-worth kind of puts all the chips in your basket, so to say.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that as well, with the climate that we're in within within our nation, I think that if we want to create any type of financial security, any type of economic mobility, we need options. We need choices aside from the traditional 9 to 5. Like you go to college, you get your degree, you get your work, you pay your dues, you get pension. That dream doesn't really exist anymore. I don't know if it ever did, but we won't get into that. But that dream does not exist right now, especially I'm thinking about my generation. We need options. Social Security is not going to be around when it's time for us to retire. So we definitely need to create multiple streams of revenue and create multiple plans to ensure that not just me and my family, but generations to come have that firm foundation. So entrepreneurship, in my opinion, is that way out, that to break that cycle. And it also opens the door for collaboration and connection as well, ironically, but I think we'll get into a little bit that later. But I really see entrepreneurship as an opportunity. So although, like what you said earlier, everyone might not view themselves as an entrepreneur, but maybe shifting the perspective and see there's got to be options. There's got to be multiple streams of revenue, and figuring out what that is and how do you want your economic security to look like for you and your lineage to come.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll jump in if you want me to.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, I was jotting down some ideas and listening to you. I think that entrepreneurship was kind of viewed pre-pandemic, sort of kind of on the fringes, and now in the pandemic environment, it's become front center. I mean, if you read the Washington Post or you read New York Times, you see that there's been a host of people who've started businesses during the pandemic, especially in the African American community. The pandemic has actually decimated a lot of industries, and it's kind of forced people into entrepreneurship, to be perfectly honest. So even before the pandemic, my thought process around entrepreneurship was that, look, you need to hire yourself first. You're never going to fire yourself. Now someone else might fire you, but you're never going to. In theory, hopefully, but you're never going to fire yourself. So, what does that mean? That means that, hey, you're going to build skills, upgrade skills, network, do all the things to make yourself as marketable as possible, so you can continue to thrive in the world. So, if you view yourself as a business, then you're always going to eat. You're always going to plant seeds. So, but that's a mindset that you have to have. So I think that if you continue to try to be as innovative as possible, as I say, see the need and choose the lead. take leadership over your life and over things that you where you think you might want to be, then ideas will come to you that will promote entrepreneurship. And I think it's kind of hard to not um, see yourself as an entrepreneur. And like you said, Lauren, in these days and times, it's kind of hard to rely on just day jobs or night jobs or whatever. You have to have something else or other things out there that are that you can kind of rely on. So yeah.
Yeah.
There's a question in the chat. The question is, what opportunities have entrepreneurship brought about for you?
Yeah, so we're just posing some questions for the audience. For those of you who are watching live, we have some questions for you guys. So as we're going along in the conversation, feel free to chime in and ask your questions of your own. Our guests definitely are open to questions as well. They're experts in their specific fields. Lauren's definitely an expert in the mental health and wellness aspect around entrepreneurship, and we are all in some way, form, or fashion entrepreneurs. So please ask your questions and answer some questions as we're asking them as well.
Well, I'll Joel, to the question posed. I'll pretend for a moment I'm Lauren, because Lauren has her nonprofit entity. It allowed her to partner with the University of Maryland Educational Opportunity Center. If she didn't have that entity, if she didn't have her background, if she didn't have the experiences, then she wouldn't have been positioned to even be able to be talking to us at this moment. We would not be on this platform with her. So right there is a huge example of what is brought to her. And it's just the beginning, because Lauren and I already are in talks on a whole lot of levels, right, Lauren? So so the sky's the limit, and when you're engrossed in the whole concept of entrepreneurship, you're always looking for innovative ways of creating revenue and making money. I mean, obviously, and from a healthy standpoint. So that's what doors have been open since just between the relationship between Lauren and the University of Maryland EOC. So, and the others remain to be seen.
Absolutely. Joel, did you have an answer for that question?
I do personally. I own real estate, and if you ask, like what benefits, of course it's property you're renting out. There is a risk. This pandemic, what ended up happening is a lot of people stayed still, and then there were some individuals that couldn't pay their rent. So I mean, it is a risky business. So what happened? Well, what ended up happening is this is the gamble. This is where you take the gamble, where you take the risk into a venture like this. So we lucked out. We ended up having several tenants throughout the pandemic. Like when we had one, and the individual lost their employment, and so they ended up moving out. We ended up getting another one, and that individual stayed for a short period of time. The pandemic struck his employment as well, and then we ended up having another one, and we got lucky on the last one because that individual was able to continue. But other than receiving the revenue, and then you're still paying that mortgage, and you think about, well, what's the profit? How much do I get out of this? What is the plus, and is it worth it? Well, one thing that I've learned about jumping into this is that you have to be a student of this game, of that particular game. You have to learn as you go. You can have the ins and outs, read as much as you can, ask the questions from other individuals. So because I jumped into this, now I get to meet other individuals who are in the same specific areas I'm in. I've met other individuals who own properties, who own the 1-bedroom, who own the 2 bedrooms, and so forth. And now I'm chatting with them. Once you decide to step into this section, you meet others who are standing in the same area. So now you're picking their brain. You're getting ideas from them. Then there's tips. Talk to this gentleman, talk to this company, get this resource, And now you have information you didn't have before. So you have to be a student of that game. And then as you learn, as you're picking up this knowledge, picking up these skills, you're going to realize whether or not you like it. So because if you don't like it, if you're not passionate about it, I wouldn't step forward to that. There is a risk, there is a part that scares me, but if you're not passionate about it, then don't get into it. You have to enjoy what you're doing. On the other side, the value of your property during this pandemic, property value went up. So not only am I earning monthly, the value of this asset has now increased. So if I wanted to sell it and move from this, I have made more than what I put in. So this is where you're learning from it. It could have gone the other way. This pandemic could have dropped property value as well. Now, when we think about the pandemic, as I mentioned, you have to be a student of the game. You have to look around. Who thrived? What kept moving? Who didn't stop? Restaurant business. Everybody had to eat food. No matter what the pandemic was going to do, everybody still had to eat. So the food business still thrived. We still had to live. We still needed a location to reside. So owning property didn't really have a negative impact other than moving tenant to tenant to tenant, because somebody had to find a place to live. So let's take that from here and figure out, okay, where can I put my time? What am I interested in? What do I need to learn more from in order to move into this step of entrepreneurship? And the other feature that I found out about this is that there's a lot of local companies where you can invest in real estate and not necessarily have to purchase the property, where you can actually put money into a project, a building that's being created, other small home properties, and you're just investing into the idea of making that a reality. And if it's purchased and sold, then you get your money back. So there's a lot of things going on in specific fields that you want to know more about. And the more that we become the student of these sections, these games, then you get to learn more about it and begin to realize exactly, is this my risk? Is this, am I still passionate about what I've just learned? Because there's a lot of other areas that I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about cars. I'm passionate about daycare. I'm passionate about other sections. But when I learn more about it, is this the type of risk? Is this fun for me? The more I learn about it, is this still fun for me? And that's the information that we all need to figure out in order to understand whether or not that's the step we want to take.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that it sounds like, as far as we are gaining knowledge, we're gaining like pursuit of passion, we're gaining community, but in addition, we're also gaining, options as far as financial and economic mobility. For me personally, COVID has really shifted my perspective around wellness, which is a little bit ironic because I'm a clinical social worker. So I already have a pretty strong foundation as far as how important mental health is. However, all the way up through the pandemic, as a social worker doing therapy, I was an essential worker. And essential workers were experiencing some severe burnout and stress because as an essential worker, you were frontline workers really providing health and wellness to the community and during a pandemic. So I had to really lean on entrepreneurship for my personal wellness because I was experiencing burnout and stress and anxiety just because of outside pressure when I was doing entrepreneurship plus contractual work from another agency providing therapy services to people in need, and having to choose between serving others and serving myself. So entrepreneurship allowed me to prioritize my wellness by saying, I really appreciate this badge of being an essential worker, and I still love social work and mental health is my passion. but there's got to be another way. I cannot exhaust myself serving the community. I have to be a little bit more strategic with safeguarding my mental health and my emotional wellness so I can perform optimally whenever I'm producing or performing different services or programs. So entrepreneurship really shifted my perspective and gave me, I guess, an exit strategy, a way out to say, you know what, Lauren, yes, everybody's mental health matters, but so does yours. So does yours. So you need to lean into entrepreneurship a little bit more and do mental health a little bit differently. So you can both keep your cup full, because you can't pour from an empty cup, and also serve the community at the same time. So I think that wellness piece, prioritizing wellness, is also an entrepreneurship opportunity that we can provide ourselves.
Yeah, and I think Joel made a really good point about once the pandemic hit, how you kind of had to really open your eyes and see who was still thriving, who was able to pivot in and out of these circumstances. Because during, I'm sure, at least the first 4 months of the pandemic, things were constantly changing. We getting new words and new restrictions and all of that good stuff, and people who were able to see what was going on and begin to pivot were the most, optimize the time. I feel like Lauren actually helped me with that a lot, because as we see now, the media industry and media technology was basically the premier industry that came to prominence during the pandemic, because we still had to find ways to communicate with one another without actually being together. As you see, we're doing right now. Me and Lauren are in one place, and our two guests are in different places, but we're all able to have a clear and concise conversation and communicate a message. That piece there wasn't as prominent of a thing when we didn't think that the restriction of being in a room together was a thing. But like I said, Lauren kind of, through the processes that we had to go through in programming, I've been helping do things with Propel Productions since its inception. So the programming that we had to facilitate, despite the fact that this change, put me in a different place to even go, hey, the skills that I have currently are becoming a lot more prominent. And if I position myself or pivot myself in the correct way, I'll be able to position myself to be in an entrepreneur space. As Dr. Graham says, getting the opportunity to partner with Propel partnering with UMD. I'm now sitting in the room as a partner of Propel and contracted with them to help out and facilitate different aspects. So the key point of that is that paying attention to the ebbs and flows, if you will, the peaks and valleys of any industry that you have interest in. And I think that's, to Joel's point, when you are doing something, it has to be a burning desire, a passion that goes beyond this can make me money, a passion that goes beyond this is simply something that seems cool or trendy at the time. Really finding your space in entrepreneurship around things that are really passionate to you or motivating to you. I feel like that's a really important aspect. And like I said, also opportunity to grow in that passion that you already have and make some money while doing it, because who doesn't like making money?
It don't hurt. It don't hurt.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that, and another point that I wanted to touch on is specifically during the pandemic, who adapted. If you were an Uber driver and there wasn't that many customers requesting that service, but you invested in this car and you're out here driving, I'm sure a lot of them switched over to delivering food, DoorDash, and these other companies that were delivering groceries, and that service skyrocketed because we had a lot of individuals who were elderly and couldn't come out because it was very high risk for them to become infected. So you have to, even though your service has stopped, the question is, do you need to stop? What can I do to continue my service, do what I love, and still provide for still provide this business, still make this business thrive. And so I think we learned that as I was completing my MBA, business owners have to adapt. Something happens, you have to adapt. Oil prices go up, you have to adapt. There's a lot of variables that we don't have control over. When your staff decides to quit on you, you adapt. You find another way to complete the work and continue with your service so that your business can thrive. So that's the I think one of the other key elements is adapting to change.
Yeah. Another thing that I have been finding interesting lately is we talk about the glass ceiling, but we put so many glass walls around ourselves throughout life. And I think that we do that because our education system really conditions us to operate a certain type of way. They really condition us to think and behave and prepare us for the workforce. So almost in anything that we do, we almost have to seek permission. Can I go to the bathroom? Can I eat now? Can I do this? Can I do that? And then we get ready to go into the workforce, and it's almost that same. I need to be granted permission from a supervisor or for management to get permission. And so when we're looking at entrepreneurship through this glass wall, we're almost kind of like, do I have permission to leave like where I am to enter that field? And I don't know. And you're almost hands like up against the glass, debating if that's even an option. And I think that's why I really wanted to name the program that we're about to talk about soon, Boss and Business Resiliency, because essentially anybody and everybody is a boss. At the bottom of the flyer, like the definition of a boss is just someone who can take authority or control over something. And we do that in our lives. We are the boss of what we eat. We are the boss of how we exercise or how we move. We are the boss of who we have relationships with and who we engage with. We're the boss of our household. We're the boss in so many other areas. It's almost kind of like, what's one more? Right. Like, sure, of course you can do entrepreneurship. Of course you can be your own boss. You already are your own boss. So it's this huge, I feel like once we have shifted that mindset, once that light turns on, there's not going to be anybody stopping this surge, like this artesian of entrepreneurships eagerly running towards serving, addressing needs and serving the community. So we really just need some people who are ready to say, like, what? Yes.
It's a little push.
Just break that.
And I think, like you said a really important thing is like, we have been so conditioned to be led that it's such a fearful space to be in where you're in complete control, because the idea of that is also almost a facade, in my opinion. Because a part of entrepreneurship is just being prepared for what comes, but not really having full control over what's happening. The same thing as the pandemic provided us. It's a space to whereas all we can do as entrepreneurs, as people, is to be prepared for what is to come, as prepared as we can possibly be. As Joel said, as Dr. Graham said as well, like, just making sure you're up on your game, you're solid in your craft or whatever it is you do, and be ready for opportunities to present themselves. But in the same instance, and that's, I think, the part of my journey in entrepreneurship where I'm coming to terms with, I'll say, is the idea that you're not in control. Like, there's not a lot of structured controlled situations where you can have your hand on every aspect. For example, you work with a partner, and you do everything correctly. You do all the things, you're prepared, and then they drop the ball in the way. You don't have any control over that. That's this as an entrepreneurship. Now in the business, you can go, hey boss, this person didn't do their job, and then they'll look at you crazy. But you know, in entrepreneurship, all you can do is roll with the punches. And I feel like the pandemic, if any other time in history, has given us that one extra piece. And I feel like, to Dr. Graham's point, that's why entrepreneurship stepped back up to the forefront, because now everybody's no longer in a structured and stable environment. Like, nothing about the pandemic was structured or controlled. So therefore, if you take away that one fear tactic, what else is there to be afraid of other than your independence and your, you know, financial stability and being your own boss, as you said. So
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right. These are the questions.
These are the questions.
Is there control? Does control exist? These are the
That's the philosophical questions that we have. So Dr. Graham, I have a question for you. In terms of and I'm going to pull for my friends who did not see the beginning. There's a lot of letters in both in the front and behind his name, and it says director. So you have some deep-rooted experience in being the boss of situations. What can you say to our young entrepreneurs? Are I would say the challenges or the peaks and valleys of being a boss in a more formal space?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. It's that you have to, like, always be humble, have lots of humility. I really like what you said about the unknown, that you can do everything right and still things can go wrong. The best defense is a good offense, is to be as informed and knowledgeable as possible. And I think listening to you all talk in the pandemic, and because in the pandemic, you know, you especially last year in particular, you know, we're still trying to come out of it. But last year, I mean, we worked remotely. I mean, I could, you know, I couldn't go into the office. You know, we couldn't go into the office. We had to, you know, you couldn't control it. You know, you couldn't control your staff like you wanted to. You had to give in to the fact that I have no control over the situation, you know. And so when you let go of it, then you grow, you know. And I grew in that capacity. I mean, I don't think I was always like that. You know, I was never the control type. I think that's what I was drawn to Lauren about, because you know, I'm of the universe. You know, I'm like, okay, the best plan is the best plan, and there's always something that can go wrong, you know, until you execute the plan. You know, things come out of nowhere. But you know, if you try to walk with the universe, you know, you try to be that coach that empowers people. Like, I try to empower my staff, you know. I try to impart certain qualities of, hey, look, you know, we can bring excellence to the table if we just empower one another. You know, I think another piece of the puzzle is, like, during the pandemic, is number one thing that came out is health and wellness, right, Laura? Health and wellness,
Yeah.
number one, it was elevated. But I'll say that time. I was listening to you talk, Jarrell. Time, what you did with your time was critical, you know. And I'm going to say this: Netflix, right? Netflix and the RT and all that, those guys, you have to be able to build content. So, as an entrepreneur in any field, you need to build content. That means that you have to go and study and learn and read and do all those things that make you an expert, that give you expertise. So people call you up and say, hey, you know what? Jarrell's an expert at this. Lauren's an expert at this. Joel's an expert at that, you know? So what's giving you expertise in whatever area you claim to be knowledgeable about? So as a director, I've tried to just empower myself around being as knowledgeable, but yet showing humility. And I try to show that to my staff, that, hey, I don't know everything, and I'm never going to know everything, you know, and I'm okay with that. you know, and that's I'm okay being vulnerable. Hey, I don't, but at the same time, what I don't know, I'll learn, and walk with me and help me, and we help one another, and then we can get to wherever we want to be. So those are some of the qualities that during the pandemic and before the pandemic that I kind of surfaced, and I think Joel can kind of speak to, you know, my leadership style too, if you would like to, before and after the pandemic or during the pandemic. So,
This is an
Joel,
No
open free
pressure.
space.
This is a
As,
Open and
as
safe
free
he
space, Joel.
as Dr. Graham mentioned, he very humble individual. Um, you can pick up a lot from him, from just sit him down and have a chance to for him to tell you his story. It's an amazing journey, and that's humbly saying he doesn't know everything, but the man knows a lot at the same time. So I think the one huge positive note that we can um, try to establish here is the space to share our ideas, to collaborate with our insecurities, and to learn from one another. You don't find that anywhere. As long as I've dealt with other individuals in business, it's a mean area. I mean, it's very cutthroat. It's the who's who could last, who could um, outwit the others, and I don't think it has to be that way. I think we we can prosper. If I'm prospering in my business, then why can't I utilize Jarrell's services and help him prosper in his business? Why couldn't I, partner with Dr. Graham, and at the same time he'll prosper with what he wants to do and I'm prospering as well? It just doesn't have to be I'm gonna be the monopoly and not only own the restaurant but the transportation service, not only own the the cell phone service but also YouTube. I mean, there's a lot to do here, and I think we realized that even though the world had to stop for a little bit and stay 6 feet apart, everything kept moving. The world kept spinning. The world did not stop spinning, even though we had to pause in our social world. We had to stop abruptly. Everything else kept moving, and so taking that into consideration, you know, where does our passion lie, and how can that passion turn into a service to help others around us? So
I like that. I oftentimes, maybe pre-pandemic, whenever I would think of the word entrepreneurship, I would also automatically think of the word of hustle. And growing up with, the hip hop culture definitely influences communities of color, communities, period. So I feel like that hustle mentality, that hustle mindset, and that entrepreneurship kind of married together. So growing up, if I wanted to be entrepreneurial, I then conditioned myself to believe that I needed to be a hustler and have multiple gigs, multiple jobs, multiple connects, multiple contracts, all simultaneously. And up until this point, I have been doing that. I think the pandemic definitely, again, like you guys said, slowed everything down. And the word that I took away from the pandemic was intentionality. And it really helped me separate hustle culture, hustle mentality, hustle mindset from entrepreneurship, and understanding I don't have to do both. I don't have to be a hustler in order to be a successful entrepreneur. I can put hustle culture away. I can even be anti-hustle, go as far as saying I'm not doing that. I'm not working two full-time jobs and having a job on the weekend and doing all of this. I'm going to be more intentional and more strategic and more mindful and more conscious about where I put my time and my energy and my resources. And bizarrely enough, the moment I decided to say no and open up, the floodgates of opportunity showed up. That's kind of when Dr. Graham called, almost to the day. But I want to hear from you guys as far as hustle mentality and hustle culture. Does it help us? Does it hurt us? Where do you guys stand with that? So whoever wants to take that first can.
Dr. Graham, you want to take the first stab at it?
Yeah, it's interesting. When I was a doctoral student back in Philly, I had like 3 jobs, and I was a hustler, kind of had that mentality. But there was still this part of me that said, you know what? What if you can just work 20 hours a week and make $80,000 a year, right? I don't know why I came up with that. This is back in like 2004, 2003, right? And for some reason, I'm like, what if I can just work 20 hours a week and make 80 G's, And like I reflect on that now because I understand what I was thinking because I'm like, wait a minute. If I can have the 80 G's, then that means that I can go do other things with my time. I can go hang out, I can work out, I can create, I can write, I can go to the gym. I mean, I was thinking about I don't need as much money as we think we need to survive. But what's more important is the time to do the freedom to do what you want to do with your time. And lo and behold, isn't that where we are now? What we really want is the freedom to do what we want with our time. I mean, certainly you want a certain amount of money you feel like is to live off and comfortable to be comfortable. So back then I'm like, well, AGs is comfortable. That was back in 2002, right? Whatever. I mean, everybody has their comfort number, right? But at the same time, I'm like, really the most important thing is if I can have my time because time is freedom. And so that's where, so I was like, yeah, you got to hustle, but at the end game, and I guess I was always thinking about the end game was to have freedom of time. So that I think that trumps the hustle mentality, the hustle mindset is really having freedom to do you. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Joy, did you have something to add in?
Yes, I think to piggyback off of what Dr. Graham is saying, it was something that I always share with my students. We need to figure out how to stop working so hard and start working smart. So I hustled as well. I figured out how to get my CDL without even paying for my CDL. That's the type of mentality you have to have. But when I think about hustling, I think we just need to change the words a little bit. We need to stop hustling so hard and start hustling smart. I think there's a good method of maybe we just have to brainstorm a little bit more. As I mentioned before, become a real student of the game, and then try to figure out with all this new knowledge that you're learning, is there a better way? So when I mentioned owning property, I always thought about a store. That store is making, if you own a store, it makes money as soon as it opens. It opens, and if you have customers, that's when you start. You need to get bringing customers. That's when you start selling products. But when you own real estate, that real estate is making money for you every day at different rates. But at any time you're sleeping, your property is making money for you. You're awake, your property is making money for you. So to me, that just made complete sense. And it's one of those, other than not having a tenant, it's the most stress to me, the most stress free type of business I've encountered. So touching on that note, hustling smarter, not as hard. Okay, so that's what I think we can take away from that. For me, it's just how we see hustling, how we define it. But I definitely think it's something positive.
That's I, I agree. I agree completely with you. I think about the idea of like if you could wake up tomorrow morning and do what you wanted to do with your time, what that feels like. That I think that's transformative. What do you think, Joel?
I think that that brought up. I think I ran into an opportunity like that aha moment when I helped another individual achieve something that they may have struggled completing. And then
Mm,
I noticed I have this amazing ability to teach. I have this amazing ability to coach. I have this amazing ability to inspire. And so knowing that, what can I do with this? What can because I'm having fun doing it. That individual that just prospered into something more than what they expected, like, how can I repeat that again? How can I do that several? What is there a way that not only I'm helping one person, how can I turn one into 10,
mm,
10 into 100? How can I do that? And when the pandemic hit, the first thing I thought to myself, I need to do a YouTube channel. I need to teach on YouTube. There's my classroom. There's my audience. There's the unlimited space that I'm looking for. So where else can we utilize that way of thinking? Where can I make 1 into 10, 10 into 100, 100 into 1,000, and not have to lose so much time into trying to do that. And
mm.
that's where I think hustling smarter, not harder, goes into effect.
Awesome. Yeah. Hey.
Okay. I agree. The hustle smart thing, I can see that over hustling, period. Another thing that I was thinking about that I feel like we do, and I feel like we might have touched on it earlier, was talking about being an individual, individuality and community. I think that growing up, we've been conditioned to believe to do things independently, do things by yourself, move out early, have your own funds, your own house, your own car. There's a lot of individual thinking. And when opportunity for collaboration arises, it's almost a little bit, "Hmm, what's going on? This is a little, what do you want from me?" so to speak. And it's a little bit difficult switching the social construct, growing up and being conditioned to be so focused on wanting to be an individual, but transitioning into the business arena and knowing you're not going to be able to thrive. You might not even be able to survive as an individual entity, but just knowing that you need collaboration and you need community. Do either of you guys agree, disagree? Does anyone have anything that they want to add to that piece?
Um, I mean, I'll add that. You're spot on. I mean, I think in certain communities, collaboration is fostered more so than in others, and so in our society too, it fosters individualism. I got there all by myself,
Mm,
which is, that's a kind of a business mindset, but that's not necessarily the case. We really ever get anywhere by ourselves? We need people, we need teams, we need help, we need family, we need friends, we need a lot, for us to overcome the obstacles and barriers that block us from progress, from success.
yeah.
So we kind of we kind of like, there's a clashing of mindsets here, and until we embrace that, hey, you know what, I need Joel to help me with X, or we work well with Y and Z, or I need Lauren with A and B, and that doesn't mean that, that's there's money to be made for everybody. That's first off. I think a lot of people feel like, hey, you're going to take the last dollar, and so I'm not going to let you take the last dollar, so not thinking that there's plenty of money out there for us, and to empower you is to empower me. And so I think that that's harmed a lot of people, and hurt a lot of people and undermined their growth and their potential. And I think that, that's something that I desperately look to do with people that I know that I'm like, look, there's something there and I want to help them get there. And to help them is to help me, because the universe is circular, what comes around goes around, so if you kind of keep that kind of way of thinking, then I think that you're like, hey, if I don't see nothing happens for me and it all happens for them, that's awesome, because I know the universe is watching, and so eventually it'll all come back to me anyway. So yeah, I see both ends, the individual and the community, but we try to promote in the community that kind of mindset where we all work together. And I think that us partnering together kind of showed that, because our first meeting with you, I mean, there were some awesome stories by some entrepreneurs, but that wouldn't have happened if we didn't have a space where we were vulnerable, we let our guards down and we shared, and so we end up having to model that kind of behavior through ourselves. So that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think that's well, not even I think, that is definitely what we want to do here with Propel Production Center, with University of Maryland, with B.B.R.E.W, which is what the program is that we're doing right now, with Propel Bosses, with Wellness Works. We definitely want to provide a space, an emotionally safe and supportive space for entrepreneurs to come and be their vulnerable, be their transparent selves, and to be able to say, hey, I am an individual, but I'm hoping to create a community of like-minded individuals. I want to grow. I want to learn. I want to figure out how to become the best version of me, how to become the best version of my business. And I have to do that through cooperative economics, each one teach one sort of mindset. So we definitely hope that this is not the end. We hope that this becomes a series so we can have other entrepreneurs and business owners come on here and share their story and find community, find solace, find rest. Because within the social media space, within the world, the marketplace, essentially, you have to put forth your most expert self, your most professional self, rightfully so. But eventually you're going to need to take that mask off and be your authentic self. And sometimes that authentic self as an entrepreneur is nervous. Sometimes that entrepreneur is anxious. Sometimes that entrepreneur is exhausted or deflated. Sometimes that entrepreneur has hit a brick wall and doesn't know how to pivot. So those are those certain things that they need. You can find that with us. So I just want to thank you guys for the opportunity to use you all's platform and to lean on you all's expertise and understanding as we talk about the importance of emotional wellness for entrepreneurs. Because like the commercial said earlier, in order for you to do well within your business, you have to be well. You have to be mentally and emotionally well. You have to be able to show up every day at 100%. And in order for you to show up 100%, 100%, you have to do those strategies, those techniques, taking time out to make sure that you are capable to perform. And then you want to create that culture within your business. So I want to thank you guys so much for the opportunity to collaborate with you and focus on the mental health of our community entrepreneurs and small business owners.
Yeah. We want to thank you, Lauren, for the opportunity. It's been amazing, and we feel like this is just the beginning. Okay. Yeah, I my vision and is that we develop something called an entrepreneur's corner, where we highlight entrepreneurs and what they're doing, so we can continue to learn from one another and share, and because I actually had brunch with one of the entrepreneurs yesterday. It was amazing. And I mean, what I learned, I mean, everybody, we all need to learn. I mean, it's like inspiring and so forth. So I look forward. I think this is the beginning. What do you think, Joel? It's just the beginning.
I think you're exactly right about the opportunities. And you imagine if it wasn't for this pandemic, if it wasn't for the use of Zoom and all these other tools that we have, even this podcast right now, um, would it have happened?
Right.
You know, so when we have this opportunity to, you know, because of something that we all faced and we all had to put our heads and minds together and get through it. Now look what came of that. We're having a conversation. We're talking about entrepreneurship, and this is available for who? A lot of individuals. So imagine that our audience. We're not in an auditorium. We're live. You know, so that's amazing to me, and so I'm looking forward to the next steps.
Yeah.
Did you want to say anything? We had some technical difficulties, but I wanted Jerome to come back and say,
we kept rolling. We kept rolling though. That's okay.
Absolutely. That's
we
that's
kept
that
it
pivot.
going.
That's
right.
that adjusting pivot that we do so well. But like Lauren said, I thank you all so much for coming and having this conversation with us. I know I definitely personally took things away from it, and I hope our watchers have done the same thing. You guys said a lot of things and brought a lot of insight to the conversation that is much needed. And of course, we hope to continue to have this conversation and many other opportunities and just share what our experiences, share what we know, share what we've learned, and grow the best generation of entrepreneurs thus far. That's what we're looking to do. So
yes, we
absolutely.
agree.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
And if you are interested, if you're watching this and you're interested and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to be a part of this. I want to join B.B.R.E.W. I want to reach out to Dr. Graham, to Joel, to Jarrell, to Lauren. How do I do this? You can click the website down at the bottom. So you can visit propelproductioncenter.org. You can follow us on Instagram. So Instagram at Propel Production Center. You can also visit Jarrell's website at IntoTheGriosphere. I'm trying to read it and say it. IntoTheGriosphere.com.
Absolutely.
And you can follow Jarrell at Into the Griosphere or at Jarrell the Grio. Right there. Yep. And you can email me. You can email me at info@propelproductioncenter.org. And if you're interested in joining B.B.R.E.W, I will forward that email to Dr. Graham to get you enrolled in our course.
Yes. Sounds awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay, so thank you guys so much. We look forward to seeing you guys again soon. You all take care. Stay safe.
You as well.
You as well. Thank you.
All right, y'all. Be easy.